Hey everybody, welcome to the Approach with Caution podcast. I'm your host, Adam Warfeld. Beside me, I got Cody. How's it going, Cody?
Good man, how are you?
I'm doing great. And we have Alex.
I'm doing awesome. How are you?
I'm doing great. And we have friend of the show, Joe Bandelli. How
Hey
you
guys,
doing, Joe?
I'm good. How are
Woo!
you?
I'm doing
Thanks.
great.
Oh, this is for you guys. For you guys.
Thank you. Thank
Thanks
you.
for coming on.
Of course,
Yeah, thank you.
man. Happy to be on. I know we only talked for 5-10 minutes last time, so I'm excited to chat with you guys for a little longer.
Yes, so we're going to go to the Scaricon interview. That was Cody and I's first appearance as the Approach with Caution podcast
Oh, cool.
anywhere,
That's
and you were
right.
one of our
Yeah.
first. You were one of our first interviews, so we want to thank you for that.
Thank you for having me. That was awesome. I didn't realize you
For
guys
sure.
seemed like you had it together, like you'd done a lot more than that. So good job.
We're wrestling fans. We're good at pretending. We could get through with it. So, with that being our first, we didn't really get to talk to you. We weren't exactly sure what the the programs were, how we were supposed to do it. So we just kind of got it started walking up to people who were like, "Hey, do you got time for an interview?" And you were super cool. What's it like when people come up to you and they want to talk to you about what you're doing and your experiences? What's that like for you?
Well, I'm always super cool, so I think that's usually a given. I'm just kidding. No, honestly, I think I've done a decent amount of things in my career, but because of Hell House, I've had so much more exposure and so many more people, especially like cult horror fans, really like want to talk to me, want to talk to other people involved in the franchise. So I've always said, because a lot of times when people see the movies, we made the first Hell House in 2014, and it came out in 2015. And no one really heard of the movie until probably when we started hearing that people liked it and wanted to have more of it. It was 2019 or 2020, and we'd already made 2 sequels. So we kind of were one of those movies that we made it, we put it out there, we made a couple sequels, we put it out there, and then really nothing came out of it for a while. And then slowly but surely it kind of started building in the cult world. So my feelings are, we've always been a word of mouth movie. So any person who wants to talk to us about what we did or what we're doing, we're grateful. And so I've always tried to make myself available to people like you guys who want to talk about it and want to discuss it, because I think it's one of those businesses where the more relationships you have and the more you can help other people and other people can help you, kind of thing. It kind of works in both ways. And so I've always been, as open as possible about coming on and chatting with people. And like I said, for you guys, your first time doing it, you asked a lot of really good questions. And, there's times I've been on podcasts where I don't even think the people knew to ask me questions. So,
And that's yeah, and that's really cool too, because you see a movie and you don't really meet anyone that did the movie. You see the screen, you see the movie, you go home and you talk about it, but being able to talk to movie people and your favorite movies that wrote it or produced it, it's really cool to talk to them.
Yeah, and guys, movies get made so many different ways, and there's so many different tiers of so many. I've been doing this for 15 years, and I've worked with people who made one movie and blew up immediately, and I've worked with people who've made 7 movies and still haven't really made a cracking thing. So it's one of those things where there is no art in terms of it has to be made this way or it has to be done this way. I've seen people who are really good not get a chance, and I've seen people who are really shitty get major opportunities and chances. And it was funny, I was talking to my wife about this earlier, because it was the only argument I got into with her dad, who passed a few years ago, but it was the only argument I've ever gotten into with him before, because I told him that there was an element of luck in my career. And he had that whole, no, you just work harder. And I was like, it doesn't always work like that. And truth be told, it really doesn't work like that. You really, it's who it's when things come together, it's got to be a magic thing that kind of puts everything out there and makes it happen. And I've been I'm very grateful to be a part of a few of those things.
Yeah,
we were talking about that, Cody, too.
Yeah, I think one of the more bigger names now with his movie Obsession coming out was Curry Barker.
Yeah.
He had I believe it was a found footage film. I haven't seen the full thing yet, but it was called Milk and Cereal on YouTube. It was about an hour long. like super low budget, nobody knew about it, and people just get a hold of it, it gets shared, and it's almost like the Terrifier guys. You know, they were nobodies
Yep.
for so long, and they had like 2 films before, and it just takes those couple shares and couple follows to blow up, as
I
well
mean,
as you guys.
yeah.
I mean,
Damian Leone is a perfect example. Like, he blew up in 2020, 2021, and his first thing he ever made with Art the Clown was in 2008. So, like,
right?
you never know.
And I
when
remember
those-
like, and yeah, we were watching Terrifier, the first one, and you, Cody, were like, you know, it's like a movie it, like just came out, it's kind of low key, and then Terrifier 2 came out, and he's like, oh, it's in theaters, and we're like, whoa, like it's
Yeah.
getting attention, it blew up, yeah.
Yeah. We had Hell House Lineage, LLC Lineage in theaters. It didn't do as well.
So
Rightfully so. It's probably my least favorite of the 5 movies that we made. So
going to what you said about that, how by the time it took off, you guys had already made 2 or 3 already.
Yep.
Was this something you guys were doing for you and said, hey, if it gets big, it gets big, but if not, we want to tell a story, we want to have a good movie? What was going into that? And then once it did take off, when did you guys realize it's like, we need a 4th, we need a 5th, we got to get rolling on this?
Yeah, so Steve Cognetti, the writer director, he kind of always envisioned it as a trilogy, and I think I've always had this mentality, and I think a lot of it depends on where you come from and what your background is. Like, some people come from like study theory, study film, understand it, and all that kind of stuff, and other people come from the I want to make one thing and blow up, or I do marketing well, or I do social media well. Steve always had the trilogy in mind. My whole thought process was, let's just make one good one and see what happens. And I think one of the things that really worked for the two of us in our partnership together is I was such a, it needs to be perfect. And he was such a, let's just get on and do the next one and do the next one and do the next one. And I think the combination of the two of those kind of theories working together and kind of working hand in hand are why we were successful, because I think we worked really hard at those things and we really did try to scare the shit out of people. But that being said, and I always credit Steve with this, he just was like able to like put it in the rear view and move on to the next, and put it in the rear view and move on to the next. And, for us, it was, I'm a filmmaker first. I write and direct primarily. And it's funny because after, 12, 15 years of doing this, I'm primarily known as a producer because I've had more success as a producer than I have as a writer or a director. But the reason why I wanted to do this was because I met Steve, I liked him, I liked the script, and I really did not want to make one movie every 3 to 5 years. I know most feature film directors, unless you're someone like that's like really sought after, like Chris Landon, who's making a movie every year, every other year. Mm-hmm. Unless you're someone of that caliber, you're making a movie every 5 years, every 4 years, every 3 years. And I wanted to make more movies in my career, and I wanted to make 1 or 2 movies a year. And so that was the reason why I kind of got on board with Hell House. And I never knew that Steve wanted to make so many so quickly. So I kind of just jumped on for the ride. But that was the thing is, I think, one of the things is, which you're always battling, and I think we did this a lot in the Hell House franchise, is we were very in tune with what our fans wanted. And we were very in tune with like following along on social media and seeing what people were saying, positive and negative. And I think that can help, but it could also really hurt. And I think when you look at the movies that we made, the ones that I think we were the most successful on were the ones where we said, we're not listening to anyone else. We're just going to do what we think is right. And the ones that I think that weren't too successful are the ones where we tried to listen to people and we tried to say, hey, we think people want this, so let's do this. And I think in general, it is a business, you have to make money. You have to, have some form of success to sustain a career within this. But at the same time, I think the people who are trying to catch on a trend and trying to do something that's going to be the next big thing, I think those people burn out over time. And I think the people who make the movies that they want to make because they're scared of them or because it's something that they want to see, I think those are the ones that usually kind of rise to the top and where you actually start seeing really good filmmakers make really good films.
Definitely. We've been watching a lot of short films too. Like a lot of the short films, the plots are just so good, and all it takes is something to do something different to change it, the genres.
Yeah. And I think with Hell House too, what's really cool about it is it was coming off of a run where you had like The Conjuring, you had Insidious, you had all these like big budget like horror films before, and Hell House kind of took the let's take a step away from that and go the found footage route.
Yeah.
And for me, I was born in '96, so I wasn't
Witch Train, huh?
yeah, I wasn't really part of the whole
2000.
Yeah, I wasn't part of the aura of like the Blair Witch Project, so I wasn't in the theaters. I wasn't seeing like the flyers of the missing people.
Right.
I didn't understand it. So as I saw it later, I think I saw it when I was like 15 or whatever. I was like, this movie's not. I'm like, what's
Right.
the hype? I'm like, why is everybody? I'm like, this movie is not good at all. But now that then after that, I believe it came Paranormal Activity.
Yep.
Which also started like the kind of found footage more stuff. So I got into that more, and Hell House was just for me kind of like a refresher into that genre where now I'm watching more stuff and getting into more like VHS, all that stuff like Wreck.
Well, you know what the interesting thing is I don't think so. The reason why Blair Witch was so successful, and like in short, like I'm with you. Like I did see it in theaters when it came out, and it made me a little sick. Like the movement and everything of seeing that on a big screen kind of didn't flow with it. But everyone was terrified by it. But the reason why that one was so successful was because .com and the internet didn't really exist yet, and so they created a web page. And so people didn't know if it was like a snuff film or if it was real or not. So they were able to create this whole atmosphere in terms of making you believe like this could possibly be real. By the time Paranormal Activity came out, there were so many people trying to make found footage movies. And I think like there's so many found footage movies. And I think the reason why I always credit Steve for taking a swing with Hell House the way he did is because he wrote Hell House as a narrative film. And when he wrote it as a narrative film and we looked at it together and we looked at our budget, we were like, there's no way we're making this movie for our budget. We need to think of a different way. And so Steve was like, what about if we do it found footage? And so he rewrote the whole script as a first person found footage kind of thing out of necessity because of the budget. And I think one of the things that I always have told him, and I say a lot, is he picked a niche subgenre that to the general public, there wasn't a lot of successful found footage films. Like to the general audience, Blair Witch and Paranormal Activity were the only two like big found footage movies. Now, cult horror fans would know of VHS, Wreck, what's it called? What's the one? I always forget it. It's the one that the Vicious Brothers did.
Yeah, like well, that just goes to show you it slips your mind because it didn't have
because it's all these movies that are trying to kind of do the same thing. And so when Steve came up with the idea, I'll be honest, like I thought it was good. And when we finished the movie and like we looked at the final cut and we showed it to our cast and crew, I was really proud of it. But I didn't think it was going to turn into what it turned into. Like I said, years went by. Like we like were moved on to like 7 other films later, and then everyone started saying like, "Oh wow, this is big." And it probably was 2019. It was probably the year before the pandemic. The first thing that I saw that I was like, "Oh wow, this is like bigger than what I thought it was." Is I think it was Twitter then or X, I can't remember what it was, but Jason Blum wrote something about how Hell House is one of the best found footage movies he's ever seen. And I was like, oh shit. And I was like, that's kind of cool. And then we started seeing all of these lists show up every Halloween and every like October of like scariest movies to watch. And we were always on it. And then you started getting into the best found footage movies. And in certain lists, we were better than Paranormal Activity or better than Blair Witch, which I was like, that's crazy. Like that's wild to me that people think we're scarier than that. And then, then by that point in time, I think we were about ready to make the 4th one. And by the time we made the 4th one, again, you get the right person seeing it and the right person saying it. Scott Derrickson and Mike Flanagan both were very complimentary of the movie on Letterboxd and on Instagram. And I think that helped us because, I'd say, and Steve would say this too, the first one is by far the best one in the whole franchise, but I think the 4th one's like right there with it. It's probably the 2nd best one. And I think for 2 guys who are making movies, guerrilla, low budget, found footage, you rarely see the same creative team stick together for 5 movies over the course of a decade. Like usually those people move on and do other things, and we have moved on and done other things, but we always kept coming back to this. And I think to look into the like independent film and independent horror film like world, that's rare, and that doesn't happen because the only other franchise like Blair Witch, Paranormal Activity, and the only other franchise is VHS. And VHS, even though it's changed hands multiple times, It's never the same directors, never the same producers, never the same writers. It's the same executive producers, but that's also kind of swapped hands a couple times. So you've never had the same core stick together. So at the end of the day, we were pretty proud of what we were able to do, because on, like, you know, next to no money, we made these things that became something that people were talking about, and scared the shit out of people, which was what our goal was in the first place.
It worked. Because some of those scenes, how like the build up, it's not like a lot of found footage where it's like, you know, the camera pans this way and there's a noise here and you turn and then there's something.
Right.
And like Hell House, it builds up to that. So it's like you think you're gonna get it and it's like, oh no, well that was weak. And then by the time you're like drained, like waiting for it, it like hits you.
Yeah.
So the setup and everything is perfect. Adam actually put me onto it, believe it or not.
Was it 2019, 2020, 2021, around that time?
Might have been. Yeah, I'm not huge. Like, Cody is the horror guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when I go to him and say,
I love it
hey,
too.
have you seen...
But he's more
seen...
he gets into it more.
Right.
He does. So when I go to him and say, hey, have you seen this movie? And he's like, no. I'm like, finally, I have something I could show him. So we were rewatching it, you know, to get ready for the interview. We rewatched it, and the clown is like the main part. Like I wouldn't call it the villain, but like the first thing that you see that you know that something's up with the Hell House.
The clown.
What was it that that made you guys think of the clown? And then when did you take over being the clown for that?
So, and again, this is the most guerrilla filmmaking thing that you probably will ever hear, but when we made the first Hell House, we had multiple scares and multiple versions of different scares. So there were certain times we were going to shoot something and we'd shoot it a completely different way and with a different villain and with a different scare, just to see in the edit what works best. And when we were working on that movie, Steve wrote in a clown, but it was a generic clown. It wasn't like a specific clown. It wasn't something that had a backstory tied to all these people or whatnot. It was just a clown that didn't turn its head, that turns its head. And we paid for a company to build a prosthetic clown mask for us. And we were delayed and delayed and delayed, and we were getting closer and closer and closer to production. And we got it on the day that we started shooting. And it was a piece of shit. It was like it was so unscary. And it was like one of the worst things. I don't even know who that was. So I'm glad I'll talk shit about them just because I don't know who they are.
Right.
But it was so bad that I remember we were looking at Angie, who runs the Waldorf Estate in Lehighton, who's where we were shooting, which became the Abaddon Hotel. And we were like, do you have any clown masks? And she was like, do I have any clown masks? And she brought us 70 clown masks. And so we started looking through all of these clown masks and we picked out one. And then we asked our special effects makeup person to alter it. And we sort of did what they did with the Michael Myers, Captain Kirk mask. We just took a very famous mask, or not a very famous, we took a mask and we kind of altered it so that it didn't look like what it normally did. And then we just shot regularly. I think, the scene in the movie where Paul's sleeping and the little girl's behind him. Mm-hmm. We shot that with the clown and we shot that with the little girl. And then when we were in the edit, we were like, it's better with the little girl. But we did that a couple different ways and we tried a few different things. But it was always meant to be just another gag in a haunted house attraction, because every haunted house attraction always has clowns. It always has little demons. So that was really the thing. And when we did the movie, again, this is the guerrilla filmmaking thing, I think half of the cast wore the clown costume in the movie. It was whoever wasn't doing something was in the clown mask. So I think Danny, who plays Alex, was in it. Jared, who plays Tony, was in it. I was in it briefly. One of our PAs was in it. It was just whoever could be in this, because it wasn't really doing much. It was just kind of sitting there and then it would turn its head or something like that. And so that was what we did for the first one. And then after it became somewhat we were like, oh, wow, that actually worked. And that was pretty scary. When we got to the second one, Steve was like, I want to do a little bit more with this. He's like, do you want to be in the suit? He's like, because I feel like you and I can work well off of one another and whatnot. And him and I have always had a really good relationship in terms of he would tell me what he wants and I would do a variation of what he wants, because I would do kind of what he wants, but I'd also do what I wanted to do. And throughout that, he'd be like, that doesn't work, or that's really good, do that again. And so I always wanted to push the clown and I always wanted to do more and more and more with the clown. And he was always like, no, this isn't art. We're trying to be a little bit more reserved with this clown. He's not like a Pennywise Art the Clown kind of, clown. And so he kind of pulled the reins back. And it wasn't until the fourth one where we like really dove into it and we're like, we're going to do a backstory on this clown. We're going to have this be the main character. And again, this was one of those things where the fans sort of dictated it, and not necessarily by us listening to them, and we shouldn't have. It was, we just kept hearing people say, oh, that damn clown. I don't know why people keep saying Art's so scary. The fucking Hell House clown is so scary. Like, we would hear that all the time. And granted, Art is on another level, in my opinion. Like, that he's a marketing machine. But I would always hear that, and so Steve would too. And I think that's kind of why we started making him a little bit more, because I think in the original trilogy, Andrew Tully is your main villain. And I think once we got on to 4 and 5, the clown was the main villain.
Right. So I talked with Cody. Cody and Alex work at Dorney Park, so they're familiar with haunts and things like that.
Yeah.
When we were rewatching the first one the other day, he said, I can't imagine shooting in there because of the narrow hallways and all the stuff going on in there. What kind of challenges did that pose, where it's like there's no fake wall, there's no, the fourth wall is there. Like, you guys have to go in depth. You have to shoot within the perimeters you guys have.
Right.
Can you
And it's
talk
so
a little
dark
bit
too.
about well, yeah, so dark too. Can you talk a little bit about how you guys made that work, and the process you guys had to take to do that?
Yeah, well, for starters, we knew the house before the script was finalized. So a lot of the scares and a lot of things were built around the way the house is. But the house also has a lot of trapdoors and movable doors. So there's a lot of things that are in there because it's built to be a haunted house attraction.
Mm-hmm.
And so it has elements in it where, like, for security, it has elements where security can get through to go from certain spot to certain spot instead of having to go through the whole house. So we were able to utilize that when we were shooting and kind of, figure some things out there. I think the biggest thing and the biggest challenge that we had was we told Angie we needed a bunch of extras because we wanted to do the main YouTube haunted house attraction malfunction, the whole thing that kind of spurred this documentary crew to go back and film everything. And we knew we were going to have to film something with like with extras and people there. And I remember we were like, can we get like 20 or 30? And she's like, what if I can get you more? Would that be good? And we were like, yeah, as many as you can. And I believe like somewhere like around 160 or 170 people showed up.
Wow.
And I remember because we were like, holy shit. And I'm one of those people where, like, when I saw that, I was like, I got some ideas. And I remember, because again, Steve and I were still new. This was our first movie that we made. Steve was like, I don't know what to do. And I was like, don't worry. I was like, you just worry about the main cast. What those 5 people are doing, you worry about that. I will worry about the rest. And I like grabbed our assistant director. I grabbed a production assistant that was really good. And I was like, listen, we're spreading these people into 3 different groups. And then we're going to separate those groups into 6 different subgroups. And you're going to have different people in different areas that are going to be cued by different things. And like, I was just like going and going and going. And so like when we were shooting that whole malfunction thing, it's funny because in that whole YouTuber video and the whole thing that you see that kind of concludes with the door shutting on Mac and him getting locked in there on the GoPro, I'm in it like 7 or 8 different times because I'm jumping from group to group. Like, I'll be with the main group at the back, and when they get through, I'll go through a trapdoor and cue a different group or cue a different person to cue another group. So basically, as you're moving, and the best part about it, the reason why I had to do that is because Angie has security cameras throughout the entire space, and we utilize the security cameras. So it wasn't like we could do, okay, let's just film this piece and then like go to the next part and film that piece. We were filming the whole house as if it was a full haunted house attraction. And then there was a couple of us that were just in shadows, cloaked in black, kind of going through and like tapping and like doing certain things. And we also got the police department, the fire department, and all the EMTs to come and help us out. Their only thing that they told us was if someone had a fire or if someone had a heart attack in town, they'd have to leave.
Right.
So, but they were there. And I remember we were trying to figure out how to time it. And that scene when Mac's like, come on guys, like, let me show you out. And he's going out the door. The last person to go out before the door shuts on him is me. And I have a walkie-talkie that I'm communicating with the EMTs in the fire department. And I basically, as I got to that doorway, I'm like calling them on my walkie so that by the time our camera goes out, they're already like sirens rung coming down the road toward our house, which was like, that was the most fun. But yeah, I mean, we just basically had a lot of fun with it. And I'd say the one thing for anyone who's thinking about doing anything like this, we were really, really, really on top of safety. Like we were like, okay, first off, if anyone feels unsafe, say something, we'll stop recording. You know, we in that basement, if you guys have ever been in it, that basement, the ceiling's like 5 feet tall.
Yeah,
So
it's not
everyone's
cul-de-sac
crouching.
friendly at all.
Yeah, everyone's crouching. Everyone could potentially hit their head if they move too fast or whatever. So we had a lot of like any time before we shot something, we would stop. We'd walk through everything. We'd ask people if they had questions. Like that was a big part of our day because we weren't just going to throw 150 or 180 people. Like we probably would have killed someone if we didn't actually like take our time and like do it appropriately. But that was that. I mean, in the whole franchise, that was probably the thing that I was the most proud of because there was 7 or 8 of us and we figured out how to handle 200 people and like make it look really good.
So we kind of hinted on it, but we really went right into the Hell House thing. We kind of skipped over how you got into the movies, and you said this was your first film that you did?
This is my first feature film that I did. I was in the process of prepping my first film that I was going to direct, and Steve brought me on to make this first. So this was my first feature film that I'd worked on other feature films, but not as a producer or writer director. I'd worked as an AC, a grip, a gaffer, and kind of cut my teeth in the G&E department, doing whatever I can to learn as much as I can for a few years before I jumped into the creative roles.
How did you get started in the movies? Did you reach out to somebody? Did you reach out to an agency, or did you see somebody say, "Hey, we need an extra"?
I grew up in New Jersey, and most of the people that I knew weren't involved in acting or filmmaking or anything like that. And it was always one of those things that the people who did that were so far removed from like where you were. And I remember, not that my family wasn't supportive, but like no one was like, "Yeah, go do that." Everyone was like I wanted to work in law enforcement. I wanted to, work for the government. Like I wanted to do some of those kinds of things. But every course of every few years, I was in sketch comedy groups. I was in theater. Every few years, I was like, when I go to college, should I go to film school? Should I do this? Should I do that? And I had multiple times I just kept trying, going, sitting in on classes, and then being like, oh, maybe, I'm not sure. And I was in the process for getting into, or the process of going through all of the fucking tests and everything to get into the Secret Service. And I wound up not getting in because I was colorblind. And I always knew I was colorblind. And it was one of those things where it was like, I was meeting with people in the Secret Service regularly, and they were telling me you're the type of person that we've been looking for, we look for for our entire lives. You're the type of person that's so dedicated and self-motivated, and you don't need a person to kick your ass to do things. You're on top of your own thing. So I was really I'm going to work for the gut. This is what I'm going to do. And when I got told I couldn't do it, it wasn't just the rejection. It was all those contacts stopped talking to me and treated me like I'd never existed. And so that hit me really hard. And around the time that happened, that was early 2008. And around the time that happened was I'm a huge comic book guy, a huge horror guy, huge nerd, whatever. But around that time was when Heath Ledger died. And it was 5 months or 6 months before The Dark Knight came out. And I remember being oh man, that sucks. I know he's super talented and I've seen a couple of his movies, but I'd never seen Brokeback Mountain. And I don't know why I was I don't want to see two dudes, blah, 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 whatever. So I sat down that night and I watched Brokeback Mountain, and I thought it was one of the most beautiful love stories I'd ever seen in my life. And I was blown away by the performances. And as the next few weeks and things were happening and I was trying to figure out what to do next, I had people pulling me to all these, I went to Miami-Dade, I went to DC Metro, I went to LA, I went to Chicago. I was going and applying for every police department, to take every civil service test, to get into all these different places. And something just kept coming back to me, and I just started researching film schools, and Full Sail was calling to me. But I remember it was around the time that the Red One camera just was about to come out. And I remember looking at projects of people who graduated from Full Sail, and they had full visual effects, and they were shooting on the best cameras, and they were shooting on things that the pros were shooting on. And I remember saying to myself, yeah, if I graduate film school, there's no way I'm going to be able to afford all of that stuff. I'm probably going to put myself in debt to go to film school and then get out and be how the hell am I going to make a movie where all that stuff that I just learned, I won't know how to pay for. And so I just randomly applied to this New York Film Academy in New York City. And I went and I sat in on a class, and they were shooting films with the Airflex 16, like the old German camera, and on film. And I was like, yeah, like I could afford that. I'm like, that's easy. And so I just said, fuck it. I'm not going to let anyone dictate to me what I can and can't do anymore. And I just went to film school, and literally, like, it's been a roller coaster. I started, getting on set as much as I can. I started writing. I started getting ready to go make things. And I remember people always saying to me, like, I remember being on set and directors or writers or producers asking me what I want to do. And I would pitch them my movie, and I could see the look in their eye where they were looking at me like, oh yeah, the grip. Yeah, you're going to go write a good comedy, or you're going to go write something scary. And I could see that, like, it wasn't just me. It was like, they just didn't respect that creativity could come from other departments or other things. And someone gave me some advice, and they said, until you start framing yourself as a writer, director, producer, no one else is going to see you that way. And so I just said, I'm not taking any jobs anymore. And I went almost bankrupt, but I basically I turned down every job that offered me anything that was anything other than writing, directing, and producing. And I found myself into a sketch comedy group, started doing sketch comedy, started writing, horror things, got my partner. We were writing stuff together. We were getting ready to make the feature. And then one day, a guy who I did some comedy with reached out to me, and he was like, hey, he's like, I have a friend, he's looking to make a movie. Do you know anyone that produces? And I was like, I can produce. And he's like, oh, do you want to meet him? And I was like, sure. And the guy who was the friend, who was the mutual friend, is the guy who plays Mac, Adam Schneider, in Hell House. And Steve was the guy that he introduced me to. And that's how I got in Hell House.
Wow.
That's
So
awesome.
it seemed to have worked out well for you.
So far, so good.
There you go. So when you hear director, you kind of have an idea of that. When you hear writer, you kind of have an idea of that. In your words, what does a producer do for the movie? Like, what is your main key to be a producer for the movie?
There's so many different things, and there's so many different variations of this. And I will give you a specific answer. But, when you see at the end of movies, dozens of producers, dozens of executive producers, dozens of associate producers, they could mean so many things. Like, they could be someone who's boots on the ground on set, like I was for Hell House. They could be a person who's in charge of the budget. They could be the person who got you the money. They could be the person who's just attached to the movie so that their name could help sell the movie for you. There's so many different variations. The way I always describe it to people, because for Hell House, I was the sole producer for the entire franchise. And I've made other movies. I just worked on a movie called Imposters that I worked with two other producers that we just premiered at South by Southwest a few months ago. I say that a really good producer clears every single possible hurdle out of the way so that the director can tell the best possible story that they can. And so that is technical. That's creative. There are times that, we were on a Hell House set, and there are times that I'm, crawling on floors and queuing people. There are also times that I'm not on set because I'm going to town and I'm trying to negotiate the liquor license in town so that we can shoot with alcohol on our set. Or there's times when I'm sitting at monitor and Steve's doing things and he's coming in and he's asking me what it looks like and what I think. And I'm like, I don't like it. We should try this or try this. So there's a whole range of that in terms of what a producer does. But I think really the best producers are the ones who clear every possible hurdle out of the way so that the director can tell the best possible story that they can tell.
That's a great explanation.
Yeah, for sure.
It gives a little bit of an idea to people, because you always see producers, and like you said, there's usually a lot of them. So that definitely is huge for people that are watching to understand what a producer does.
Yep.
So making films and definitely. Like producers and directors, and is there anyone that you look up to that you would like to work with or you take inspiration from?
Yeah. So my love, so I have this thing where I like really dark scary or really funny scary. So like horror comedies have always been something, like I said, I've been in comedy and sketch comedy for a long time. So that's something that's always kind of been up there for me. So I think I mentioned his name before, but I think Chris Landon is one of the best genre directors out there. I think he's really funny. I think he's got a good sense of what works and what doesn't work. He's one of those people that I was very fortunate enough to meet him because I wrote and directed a documentary called Unknown Dimension, which is about the Paranormal Activity franchise. And Chris basically got his start as like the brainchild for the second, third, fourth, fifth, and so on for the Paranormal Activity movies. So I got to meet him and interview him, and he had a ton of information that he gave me that was on camera that's in the movie, but also some advice and everything that he gave me afterwards. So he's kind of up there for me. Edgar Wright is up there. Edgar Wright is, you know, a genius. If I'm going old school, I love Wes Craven. I'm a Nightmare on Elm Street guy. I'm a Scream guy. So
Yeah.
Wes Craven's up there for me. I think John Carpenter is one of the best directors of all time. I know he's not one of the nicest people of all time, but he's definitely one of the best directors. And like he showed that like he can jump genres and still tell a really good story. Stanley Kubrick's up there. Yeah, there's a lot of people. And you know, when I think of, you know, Christopher Nolan's incredible, but I don't think the type of movies that I make are Christopher Nolan movies. You know what I mean? So working with him would be a completely different thing. But then I also have my comic book nerddom thing, and I get in arguments with people all the time because I get in arguments with people who say that the Russo brothers are not good directors, and I'm like, you're crazy. Like, to manage all those egos and manage an entire universe of people, like, yeah. And I also think Captain America: The Winter Soldier is one of the best political thrillers that I've ever seen in my life. So there's a lot of people. It's kind of like asking someone, what's your favorite movie? It's really hard to say. Like I can tell
for sure
this one is in this genre or this genre or this genre. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there was a thing going around at my work. We were asking, like, once I started like getting into like the podcast stuff and trying to figure out like what movies people are into, I said, can you, and there's another podcast I got to give a shout out to. They're called it's called Lost in the Shadows with Cody Leach and Chuck, your movie guy Chuck. He's like a big movie reviewer. Yeah. They did a thing where it was like your Mount Rushmore of horror directors, and I'm like, man. And like before they even said theirs, like I had it in my mind, but I was only going to change one. And I was like, it was John Carpenter for like the nostalgia factor, and then my era, it has to be James Wan because he did Saw, in City, like the guys,
all the Conjurings.
Yeah, and he even jumped ship. He did one of the Fast and Furious movies, and I think it was Aquaman. Yeah, so like he's so diverse in that sense. And then not some movie wise for Dr. Sleep, because I think Dr. Sleep is better than The Shining, but Mike Flanagan is up there.
Great.
And I keep like itching, like I need it because I know The Exorcist is going to be top, like probably one of the top horror films to come out in the next 10 years, just because he's doing it. And then I was tossed between Wes Craven and, oh my God, I forgot his name. Probably George Romero, just because of the like what Night of the Living Dead stood for versus it not just being a zombie movie. Like you really have to look into like
well before its time. Before its time.
Yeah, definitely.
That's
We're gonna move into the you talked a little bit about it with the South by Southwest, your movie that
I didn't even realize I'm promoting it right now currently. So
I saw that and I was like, man, I just talked to my wife about wanting to go. I was like, oh.
So let's dive into that a little bit. What do you got going on with that?
Yeah, so I produced a movie a couple of years ago called Imposters. It was written and directed by Caleb Phillips. He made a really good short film. It's called Outside. What was it called? Something in the Box. I don't know. He calls it Box, but it's, if you guys look up scariest short films ever, it's always in the top 10 list. The Other Side of the Box, that's what it's called. So this is his first feature. He wrote and directed it, and then I worked with my two partners at Broken Pig Productions, Tom Bond and Sarah Seligman, and we shot at the end of 2024. We shot in Massachusetts, and it's a really, really kind of interesting genre blend, horror sci-fi movie starring Jessica Rothe from the Happy Death Day franchise. And it's basically about a couple that move out of the city, have a baby, and they have a housewarming party, and their baby goes missing and gets taken. And so they find out from a local that there's a cave in their woods that can bring their baby back. And so it's an interesting one, and it premiered at South by Southwest in March. It did really well. We are on the festival run right now, and I think hopefully, if things go well, we'll probably have a theatrical release end of this year, early next year. But yeah, that one is one that I'm very proud of. It's doing really, really well. So I really hope everyone comes out to see this one, because it's not your stereotypical scary movie. It's a nice sci-fi horror blend.
Gotcha, for sure.
Have to check that out.
Yeah, I
So
saw
what
you also have another one. I believe I was scrolling through like my recommended videos, and I think it popped up, and I saw your name tag, and I was like, oh well, I got to check it out now. The Sequence.
Yeah. So The Sequence is a short concept that my buddy Brian wrote, and he'd been trying to make it for a very, very long time, and he couldn't figure out how he wanted to do it. So he gave it to me and asked me what I would do with it. And so I told him what I would do. He liked it. He funded it, and we made a concept that kind of did a short festival run. I think we just finished up last weekend at the Indie Shorts Festival in LA, but we won at Nightmare Fest in Ohio. We were in Film Quest and Scream Fest this year, but it stars Katie Parker from a lot of Mike Flanagan's stuff. And yeah, it was a really, really cool movie. Really great crew and really great cast, and we're in the process of developing that to hopefully shoot that next year and make it the feature-length version of that.
Yeah, that 2-minute trailer was awesome. That like drew me in, so that's definitely one that's on my radar.
Yeah, I can. I think Brian was telling me the other day. I think it's going to be on. It's either going to be on Bloody Bites or Crypt TV in a couple months, so it'll be available for people to see.
Cool, sweet. I like a lot of the short films too. Like we've been watching Cody. We've been watching a lot of like short films. They're so good.
I think some of them are better than full-length movies.
There's let me think. There's a one short film that I saw at South by Southwest that was incredible. I think it's called The Seeing Eye Dog Who Saw Too Much. It was so smartly written and directed. And the guy who wrote and directed that is trying to make it into a feature. And I told him I will do anything to help him make that movie because it was such. If you guys are familiar with the giallo genre, the kind of like whodunit murder mystery that Dario Argento sort of created, like Italian slashers. It's like a love letter to those types of movies, but it's really funny. And I keep your eyes open for that. The Seeing Eye Dog Who Saw Too Much.
I think I saw his movie. I think I saw his movie, The Opera, and that was really good. That movie like blew me away.
Yeah, that guy's really talented.
Yeah, for sure. Like what? The one. What's the one that I hate? That short film.
Oh no, you hate a lot of them.
No, I don't. I mean, I don't hate them. Like it's scary. It's just like it's the one with the mom where she's on the phone. She, like the daughter's like in the kitchen. She's like on the phone with her mom, and her mom's like on vacation somewhere. But there's like a mirror image of her mom like in the same room, and it's creepy. There's so many of them.
It's only like 4 minutes long, but like you see a lot of these films where they're like 4 to like maybe 12 minutes, but the views are out of.
Well, you know what's interesting? Oh my God. You know what's interesting? Like, so Lights Out came out a long time ago, and that started David F. Sandberg's career. And around that time, which I think was like early 2000s, mid 2000s, the whole thing with short films and getting your short films into festivals and getting them made is you just needed a scare sequence. And the people who didn't do well were the people who tried to do a beginning, a middle, and end, who basically took their short and saw it as like a mini feature-length movie. And those are not what people wanted. They wanted to see scare sequences. They wanted to see that people knew how to scare an audience with one sequence. You didn't need a beginning, middle, and end. You didn't need a resolution. And that's what it used to be. Now it's changed completely because now people want beginning, middle, and ends. And now a lot of horror films that are successful or getting into festivals are like 15, 20-minute long movies. And a lot of them are creating an atmosphere, creating an environment. And, you know, to your point, Curry Barker and I forgot what the other dude's name is, the one who's doing Backrooms?
Oh, yeah.
Both of those guys have like YouTube followings with massive content and so much stuff. Like they clearly have like a plethora of ideas and content. And I think that's what's driving, you know, A24 and a lot of these other companies to be like, we want to work with these guys, which is the opposite of what it was like 15 years ago.
I know Eli Roth is a big supporter of independent stuff, so anything his name is tagged on, that's another click for me. I'm gonna be like, all right.
Oh my God, yeah, Dream Eater.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Dream Eater.
He's a big fan of Dream Eater, and I think his company wound up buying it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, yeah. I got the poster over here. I have it on Blu-ray. Yeah, me and Alex saw that at a small theater in Emmaus, Pennsylvania. Yeah, super small, maybe like 200 cap or whatever, and it was just me and him and one other person. I was like, you couldn't have been submerged in a better setting for that movie.
Yeah,
but we gotta watch.
But it was so well done.
Yeah, we got to watch movies we show Adam because Adam is not a fan of the jump scare.
Yeah, he's not.
I am not I'm not a horror guy. I have my 5 or 6 movies that I watch. You know, I'm big into the Saw, Hostel,
I was gonna say,
Hell
what kind of
House,
you like? You like torture movies? What what
pretty
kind
much.
what I was gonna say, what kind of movies are your like? What's your thing?
I like kind of the psychological movies.
Okay.
I'm big on stuff that doesn't have a lot of jump scares for
Got
the
it.
sake of, oh, we're a horror movie, we need a jump scare. Like 1408,
Yep.
huge movie. There's like 3 people in the whole movie.
Right.
And it's incredible because it's not like, oh, ghost pop out of a closet.
Right.
Like, I just, you know, I want to be scared. I want to have real fear. Things like Hostel, where it's like, oh my God, if you go to another country and you get kidnapped,
Right.
that's fear.
Yeah.
Like, I am scared. Final Destination, as the guys know, my plane went down
Yeah.
when I was out to Vegas 2 years ago, and that, because of Final Destination, has now made my anxiety of flying. I've written off flying.
Yeah.
So real fear, things like that.
So like
Those
more
are
of like
my top
the thrill, like
I like
what would you?
thrillers, yeah.
Yeah, so like something that like kind of like not scary, but like kind of like makes you like sit on the edge of your seat, like you're
Do
in the
you
film.
lean
Like,
away? Do you lean away from like Conjuring or movies with like ghosts and demons that are like religious based and things like that? Or does that stuff scare you?
I just got nothing for ghosts. I like
Fair.
this. Now I went down to the Eastern State Penitentiary when I was in middle school, and something happened down there that freaked me out. And I wouldn't say I'm a skeptic,
touched?
but like,
Are you touched?
is that
yeah,
where it started,
yeah,
Adam? Is that where it
that is where it started.
It
So
was like an A&A meeting. Let's let it all out, Adam.
yeah,
started?
yeah.
Yeah, just
So
yeah.
anything like that, any ghosts,
Just be
anything like that,
yourself.
I try to stay away from it.
Fair.
Anything with crazy jump scares, I try to stay away from. We've talked about Sinister a little bit on the podcast.
That's the
Stuff like
scariest
that.
movie I've ever seen in my life.
That's a top
It is
5,
crazy.
maybe top 3 movie.
Yeah.
Like,
But it
it's
wasn't. It
Yeah.
wasn't based on jump scares. I hate the one at the end though.
Right.
yeah.
But other than that, like, there's not a lot of jump scares, stuff like that. That it's like scary. It can be a little bit outlandish, but like, I don't want a jump scare for the sake of, it's been 10 minutes, somebody's not scared, let's do something.
Yeah. That's the kind of movie that if you're sitting home by yourself and you're watching it, you start looking over your shoulder while you're watching it.
Right.
Yeah.
I think for me, a lot of it's like music driven too. Because like the Insidious, that whole the keys, whatever things they use to make that the music setting is frightening. The Sinister music is frightening when they're going through the different video footage. Like,
Well, they always say if you're scared. Well, this was something that I was told. Like you tell your girlfriends when you're in high school is if you want to take someone to a horror movie and they get scared, don't tell them to cover their eyes. Tell them to cover their ears because it's scarier when you hear the things than it is when you see the things.
I mean, I'll vouch for that. Yeah.
Never thought about that.
Yeah, that is crazy. So what's going up next for you, Joe? I know you talked a little bit about the theatrical release you have hopefully coming up really soon. What do you got? What's next on your plate?
Yeah, so that is going to be the next thing I think that everyone will see, along with the short film version of the sequence, which hopefully will be done next year. And then I'm working on a movie called The Hunted. I took a little time off because I just had my first son, my first baby.
Hey,
Oh, congratulations!
Thank you guys. So I'm starting to get back into the swing of things now, but I have a film called The Hunted that I've been working on for a little bit and putting some people together on that. So I'm hoping that one is something that I shoot either end of this year or early next year. But yeah, and then I have another one that's probably a lot further down the road, but it's my love letter to slasher movies. It's a fun one.
Gotcha.
We're gonna definitely keep in touch. We're gonna be watching along with you.
Thank you.
Do either of you guys have any other questions quick before we wrap up here?
I think also too, like, you know, as someone that loves and has a passion for film and everything, you know, what's one project that you have like the most fun on, or like the one that you know is like the heartfelt film that you've done? Do you have like a specific one that reaches out to you
that I've made?
Yeah.
Oh, man, that's hard. All of the Hell House movies are all good to me. I like that family of people that we made those movies with, like their family. So I have personal connections with so many people because of those movies.
Yeah.
I think the one that's probably the most interesting is probably Unknown Dimension, because that's a horror documentary, and it was such a weird movie to start and make. I remember when I was living in Los Angeles, I remember I was friends with this guy named Anthony Massey. He's a producer. He's actually one of the executive producers on Silent Night, Deadly Night, the movie that just came out.
Okay. Yeah, we watched that. Yeah.
So Anthony, prior to Silent Night, Deadly Night, had primarily produced retrospective lookbacks for horror movies. So he did like the 25-year anniversary Halloween doc. He did the His Name is Jason doc. He did Still Screaming. He did a bunch of different documentaries about a bunch of different like big horror franchises. And so basically he was in the process of, he didn't want to do it anymore. He wanted to go more into narrative. But then one of his friends pitched him an idea about doing one on Paranormal Activity. And he started going back and watching the movies, and he was like, these movies don't have like any behind the scenes with them. Like none of the movies say anything about how it was shot, how it came together, anything. It's just this like found footage phenomenon. And of course, the reason why that is because similar to Blair Witch, like they don't want to reveal the secrets. But we're now at an age where it's like everyone knows it's a movie. Like it's clearly.
Yeah.
So
how do we push that envelope?
Yeah, so he was looking for a writer-director, and he started pitching and interviewing and getting people to come and like tell him their ideas to go make this documentary. And I just met him a few months ago from a mutual friend. And I'm not one of those people where like when he told me he was doing that, I wasn't like, look, what about me? Like I don't do that. Like I just if he would have asked me, I would have said, yeah, I'd be interested, but I didn't want to like, meeting someone do that. And so I was in the process of going, this was 2019. I was going to shoot, or 2018, I was going to shoot Hell House 3. And he said to me, my buddy Nate lives in Pennsylvania. You should, if you guys need an extra hand, you should give Nate a call. He'd love to come work on the movie. And I was like, sure. And so I came back to Pennsylvania. I called Nate. Nate was awesome. Nate came out. I showed him around. He was one of the people that helped me wrangle a lot of the people, and he was awesome. And when we got finished, Nate was like, you mostly direct though, don't you? He's like, I know you've produced on these, but you mostly direct. And I was like, yeah. He goes, has Anthony talked to you about the Paranormal Activity documentary? And I was like, he's talked about it. And he's like, would you be interested? And I was like, I'd 100% be interested. And he goes, well, let me talk to him about it. And I was like, cool. I was like, yeah, you don't have to, but sure. And so I get back to LA a few weeks later, and I'm sorry, this is a really long story. I get back a few weeks later.
You're good.
And Anthony calls me and he says, hey, first off, thank you I didn't think you were going to reach out to him. And like, believe you guys might know this by now, but there are definitely people in this industry that say they're going to do things and then don't do those things. There's a lot of people that do that. There was no reason for me not to call this guy Nate. Like he seemed really cool. I liked Anthony. I was like, why not? So he was really grateful that I called him and brought him out there. And then he was like, by the way, he's like, I'm so sorry. He's like, I only thought you wanted to work in found footage. And I was like, I actually don't want to work in found footage anymore. I'm like, I want to do other things. And he's like, yeah, but I never thought you'd want to do a documentary. And I was like, Paranormal Activity is one of my favorite movies. I was like, I think Oren Peli did what Wes Craven did for slasher movies with Nightmare on Elm Street. I think he did with found footage movies by taking what Blair Witch was and bring it into your home. So everyone was scared of it. And he was like, okay, cool. He's like, why don't you meet me and Rachel, the other producer, and we'll grab lunch and talk about this. And so I think it was like 2 days later, I met them for lunch and I had like a 60-page outline. And I had like a 120 person list of who I wanted to interview. And I handed it to them and they were both like, whoa. And they both hired me on the spot. And so, but it was just such an interesting thing because I'd never made a documentary before. And I was like, how the hell are we going to, like, how do we get the rights to like use all these movies and all the things that I want to talk about in this thing? And he was like, oh, we fair use them. And I was like, oh, okay, that's fine. Like you just fair use them. That's sure. Do whatever you want. Don't show it long enough. And then whatever. It's like, you're promoting those things. You're not shitting on them. So, and I was like, okay, I guess. And we got Katie, Mika, and Oren, and I sat down. They were both, all three of them were awesome. And I sat down with them for like, Oren was like 2 interviews over the course of 8 hours. Katie sat with me for 4.5 hours. Mika sat with me for 4.5 hours. And it was, I just got so much information. And after that, we went to Paramount and we pitched the movie to Paramount, and Paramount rejected us. And so we were like, okay, fine. And so we just started like reaching out to other cast members from other movies. And then slowly but surely, like some people reached out, and then we got Steven Schneider, who was a huge executive producer. And then Steven Schneider helped us get Jason Blum. And then Jason Blum was like, who don't you have? And I was like, I don't have the head of Paramount, and I don't have this person, and I don't have Catherine Newton. And the next day, all those people wanted to meet with us because we were doing the documentary. To the point, by the time it took 2 years, it happened over COVID. By the time we finished shooting it, Paramount was calling us to buy it from us, and it was just it was one of those really like, interesting like things that like
surreal moments.
Yeah, you like and like again, I was also in the room with people who I was in the room with Chris Landon, with Jason Blum, Henry and Rel, the two guys who did Catfish. Like I was in the room with a lot of people that I respected, and I was able to ask them a lot of things. And I'm not sure if you guys have seen the documentary. If you haven't, you should. It's on Paramount Plus. The reason why I think it's like so personal to me is because Anthony had all these different documentaries, and when I watched the documentaries, they were good, but it felt like a fan who was like, I want to know all the gossip about this movie. I didn't want to tell that kind of movie. I wanted to tell a movie about a guy, which Oren Peli was, a guy who had no film experience whatsoever, had no idea what a horror movie was, and basically was really tired of his job and just wanted to write something so that he could make a movie and make enough money so that he didn't ever have to do his job again. And I thought it was such an interesting like person that's outside of the industry that makes something that kind of changed how the industry like makes deals and makes movies. And that was just like, and it's so interesting, like meeting people and talking to people and realizing that all they tried to do with the sequels was like do a found footage movie with a big budget the way it was done. And the way they shot those movies were just fucking crazy. Like they would just rewrite them and reshoot things and rewrite them and reshoot things. And it's like all trying to capture that like lightning in a bottle that Oren got. And it's just, it's one of my favorite things I've ever done by far.
That's awesome. So that's awesome.
We're going to have Cody write that down. The next time we all get together, we're going to have to watch that.
Yeah, we'll let you know.
So that's
I know you guys like scares, but it's not scary. It's more informative. It's more of like we show Katie getting dragged out of the bed, and then we have footage showing how they tested it and how they did it, like things like that are like really cool for people who like those movies to see how it was all done and how it all came together. And the best part about it is, for those of you who are a fan of the franchise, you probably have the same question I had when I was like taking this on, is why the fuck did they make a 3D found footage movie? I was able to actually sit in the room with the executives at Paramount as well as the filmmakers and ask them why the fuck they did that and get both sides of the story, because the filmmakers were like, fuck the studio, and the studio was like, we understand that the filmmakers wanted to do it this way, but this was the reason why we wanted. So it was really cool to get that perspective. And like every time I had a conversation with someone, it's kind of like the thing that you guys were speaking to a little bit earlier, is I always think that like when I'm sitting down with someone that maybe they didn't realize that sixth movie really sucked. And like, as soon as I start talking to all of them, they're like, yeah, that movie fucking sucked. We did not want to make that movie. And it was like really cool to see like, oh, like everyone saw that this sucked except for that one person. And that's the reason why they made the movie. So yeah, really interesting.
Definitely. Like
quick questions. Oh, go ahead, Alex.
I was just saying, well, we just watched a movie called Hunting Matthew Nichols.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you've ever seen that one. That one was really good. It's a found footage movie. Oh my god, it kind of took me out of like my element of like a movie. I thought it was like a true documentary. It was a found footage true, like a documentary, and the ending was like, I'm like, oh, this is actually a horror movie. It was really neat. Definitely check it out.
If you've never seen Lake Mungo is one that does that as well. That's one of those movies. That was a big inspiration for Hell House, and that was one of those movies where you wouldn't know it's a horror movie until like the very, very end of the movie.
Yeah, because they had like interviews.
I was thinking that way about Robbie Banfich's The Outwaters.
Yep.
I think it is.
Yeah,
I felt the same way about that, and I was like, it's such like that slow burn, but like when it hits.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
Yeah.
So 2 more quick questions before we go. You said you modified a mask to make the clown mask. Did anybody ever reach out to you about saying, hey, That's our
I want
mask.
that.
So this is funny. I actually, as the second and third movie, and even going into the fourth movie, I always told Steve, we should try to sell this. Like, look at what they're doing with Terrifier. Like, we should try to sell this. And he never said no, but he had reservations. And I never understood why. Later, I come to find out that the reason why is he didn't want to get sued by the original mask maker. But I was very fortunate that I went to Ruby's, which is a huge company that does all the mask making for a lot of like the Halloween stores. And they were like, your movie is not big enough for us, but we know some people that we would think you'd like get along with. So I met Bishop and Jasmine from Paleface, and they are based in Ohio. And I basically showed them the mask. And I was like, hey, we've been making these movies for like 6 years, and we only have one of these masks. And Bishop was like, does it smell like piss? And is it crumbling apart? And like cat piss, and is it crumbling apart? And I was like, yeah. So I basically told him like I wanted them to make the masks for us moving forward. And he was like, do you own the rights? And I was like, no, but I tried to research the company, and the company went out of business. And then like years later, the company turned into like a political company. And like none of the designers, no one worked in the field anymore. And so he was like, okay, he's like, let me think about this and get back to you. Bishop not only tracked down the original artist and company, he got them to sign over the rights of the mask to me.
Wow.
Wow.
Basically, now I don't give a shit. We own the mask. So we own everything with all the masks, and we can do whatever the fuck we want with it. So that was actually, and when I told Steve that, Steve had the main clown in the fourth movie. And when I told him that, I told him that I was working with Bishop to create 2 other clown masks that we thought were going to be interesting. And if you guys know, the main clown is bleeding from the eyes. And Bishop and I were talking about doing like a see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil with the clowns. So he custom made 2 more clowns, one that's bleeding from its mouth and one that's bleeding from his ears.
Oh.
And I showed them the
That's
Steve.
awesome.
We rewrote
That's so cool
to put those 2 clowns in it.
That is so incredible, because our original Approach with Caution logo was
I was thinking the
taken
same thing.
a block from us. It's the see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil.
Oh,
and
cool.
All 3 of us are doing something. That's where
That's awesome.
our original logo came from.
Yeah.
And this one, before we wrap up, there's a video on YouTube where it's a couple, I believe they're a couple, and they go to all the shooting locations from Hell House LLC, the original. And towards the end of the video, they're like, all right, and we're here. And we can't figure out where.
Are you talking about Jen and Marcel?
It might be. And I just wanted to know if anybody ever got in contact with them and said, this is where we shot it, because it was the only thing. They had no idea where it was shot. I wanted to see if you
For which
heard
movie?
about that video. I think it was the original.
So it can't be Jen and Marcel, because Jen and Marcel go to every single shooting location and they like rent the place for the evening. So they've been there.
Oh, dang.
Send me the video. I'll reach out.
Look it up.
Yeah.
But yeah,
we'll post it down there. This is what happened.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Sounds good, Joe. Well, thank you so much. There's still so much we didn't even get to talk to. This was such a great conversation. Hopefully we can have you back on soon.
Absolutely.
But everybody, go check out Joe on Instagram, on Facebook. Go follow him. Watch Hell House LLC. Be sure to check out the new movie coming out shortly. We're going to be posting about it, talking about it, and hopefully we can get to a screening of it when it gets to the theaters. And thank you guys for watching along with us. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram as well. Make sure you subscribe and check out all we got coming up. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you guys next time.